Hey friends, Kevin Dairaghi. Welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. Before we get started, I just want to say a quick thank you to all of our vendors or sponsors that help make this show possible. So we got Lois Mans with Farmers Insurance. We got Greg Vans with Upright Construction. We have CRS Property Management, Adam Dairaghi and his team. We have Red Maples Construction, Jason Hudson and those guys. Who are actually currently doing multiple houses for me right now. And we also have Tom and Peter over at Essex Mortgage. These guys all together is the team that I personally use on my projects, on my houses, in my friendships. Like this is the team when you're getting into real estate that I hope you get to also work with. So I want to say thank you to you guys for sponsoring our show and kind of getting all this out there for us. Today, our guest is Gabe Petersen. He's an influencer, so he's got a podcast, but more known, he's on the west side. He's over in the Seattle area in Washington, but he is buying mobile home parks and self-storage pretty much throughout America. So it's kind of crazy to hear how you go from nothing, like thinking about going into law school, and instead going into real estate and buying stuff nationwide. So let's see how Gabe's journey has happened, the goods, the bads, and all that. So let's get into our talk with Gabe now. Kevin Dairaghi, welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. We are totally professional today, not to worry about that. We just talked about editing. That's awesome. So today our special guest is Gabe Petersen. Gabe, how you doing?
Kevin, I am doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you for being here. So I have to start with this because we just had a little talk about it. Your last name is Petersen, but instead of son, S-O-N, it's S-E-N. So don't. You started to talk and I'm like, whoa.
There's a big rivalry between the Suns and the Sens.
Okay, so I don't know this, but to me it sounds like Viking stuff.
Yeah, so Petersen, S-E-N, is Norway, and that's where my family at some point in the past was from. And Petersen, I think it's like Denmark or something like that, but it's one of the other countries, and it's just
one of the other blah, blah, blah.
One of the other Scandinavian countries that's not as cool as Norway.
Finland, Sweden, whatever.
So that's where it's at.
That's awesome. Have you ever been back that direction?
In college, I did the whole backpacking, Europe backpacking thing, and I went up to Norway, went to Oslo, but I went so the actual college trip, I went and studied abroad in Spain, in Granada. And so I did all that. And then at the end of the trip, during the winter, it was like December, and I went and I did Northern Europe, which was kind of a mistake. I should have done Northern Europe at the beginning of the trip and then Southern at the end, because when I got to Norway, it was like, I have a picture of my watch, and it's like 2 or 3 p.m., completely pitch black outside. But it was so good. It was fun. It was it was a good trip.
That sounds like a rookie mistake, Gabe. If I just had it
that's a 19-year-old mistake right there.
Yeah, I haven't done the trip to Europe, but I think going north in the winter is probably not a great idea. So, Gabe, you're this investor, right? You do this investing. Now you do other versions of it, right? A little higher level stuff. And you have a podcast called the Real Estate Investing Club. And you have some terrific guests coming up soon, too, which you might need a friendly plug right there. But yeah, the Real Estate Investing Club, if you guys aren't a part of that, you need to start checking out what he does. Gabe is over on the west side, so we're talking Tacoma. So they're more than just trucks. It is just south of Seattle, Washington. So you really are on the west side over here. So how is life on that side? Geography wise, like how does investing work over there? I mean, I'm in the Midwest. A lot of my people are Midwest, and a lot of my guests, I think, so far have been Midwest to East Coast and down to Florida. So how's the west side?
I actually don't invest in Seattle. I'm in the Seattle area. It's I own 2 mobile home parks in Washington State, and everything else is out of state. And that's just because, especially with single family, there's just nothing that cash flows. It's really difficult to find cash flowing properties unless you're doing something really unique, DADUs, that kind of stuff. And for what I look for, I buy mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities, and that it was just better to look outside. But we own 2 here in Washington State, and I've done flips in Washington State way back when I had a duplex, a couple of rentals. But outside of that, I don't really invest anymore in Washington State.
So you said DADUs?
Yeah, detached unit or ADU.
Okay, I was like, ADU I've heard. I haven't heard DADUs before. So I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So just interesting there. Cool. All right. So all that said, how did you get into real estate? How did you start your first flip? How'd you get into it? How'd you get into mobile homes? All the stuff. How did you start?
The whole jazz, yeah. So I started, I'll just take you all the way back. When I was in college, I was going to college to become a lawyer. Then I shadowed some people and I was like, I would not like this life. This is not for me. But I didn't have a backup plan. And so I was just like, shit, what do I do? And so some of my friends were in consulting. They went to Accenture and they seemed to like their life. And so I went and I got myself a consulting job. And didn't like that either. I didn't like working in corporate. I didn't like, I had to commute. I didn't like really traveling, honestly. In consulting, there's a lot of traveling and didn't really like that. And so I just decided, I need to figure out my own thing. I need to figure out a way to make my own money. And, but I didn't really have a plan. Nobody in my family was really entrepreneurial. I mean, my uncle, he owned his own business, but I never really talked to him about it. And so I didn't really have a framework to go with. And so there then started, a whole host of different businesses that I tried. But one of them was real estate. Started in e-commerce, actually. I started an e-commerce company, or drop shipping, essentially. I actually still own the company. We still do drop shipping, but it wasn't, we do $60,000 a month, but the margins are so slim. It's like 5% that you're making on the 60,000. And so it's really difficult, especially with drop shipping, to make enough money to live off of. And so even though I had that store going, I just kind of looked at the work I was doing, sitting in front of a screen. And I was like, this is not something I want to scale. It's not something that I want to, do long term. So I started looking into other things. At the time, I was flipping through Facebook, still working my job. So I had I had my consulting job, I had my e-commerce store, and I was just like flipping through Facebook, looking for another option, and everything popped up. Back in the day, it was really big on digital marketing. So I tried that. I tried, getting clients. I got a few clients. I was like, this sucks. And so I didn't do that. And then finally I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like all good real estate stories start.
Yep.
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
The gateway book for most people.
Yep. And this was, I think at this point it was 2014, 2015, something like that. And so I convinced my friend to do a flip with me. We bought a triplex here in Tacoma. It was a complete shit show. It was, there were obviously it was a triplex, 3 tenants. But one of them was a hoarder, like just floor to ceiling garbage. One guy was growing weed out of his house. So the electrical bill, and for some reason, I can't remember why, but we were on the hook for the electrical bill. And I think it wasn't sub-metered or something. It was like an old house. And his bill was like $600 a month. It was crazy. And then the last person, he stopped paying rent and we had to evict him. And he did the classic, home. What was that? Just a movie where the guy put the sock in the sink and turned on the water and left. He did that, flooded the entire thing.
Is that Soggy Bandits from Home Alone? Is that what you're...
Home Alone, there we go.
It's like I'm not sure which one, but it sounds a lot like
old school
Macaulay Culkin.
Yep. So he did that. And so that was my introduction to real estate. And so it was a lot of, real estate, every deal you do, things are going to go wrong. And this one, every single thing went wrong. But at the end of it, we ended up making $80,000 between the two of us. And that was the biggest check I'd ever seen. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. But I didn't at the time have the balls to completely drop my job. And so from there until 2019, 2020, I worked, still consulting, and then just did real estate on the side. I would do a flip. I'd do a wholesale. I bought a duplex and just kind of did the two. I was definitely not doing a good job at work because that was not what I really wanted to do. So time went on and eventually I got fired from my job. And
nice.
But reasonably so, because I had one foot in each camp. And looking back, you wish that you had jumped earlier, but sometimes life's like, hey, this is what has to happen. And so got fired and I just kind of leapt into real estate. And I think I had like 19,000 left. I bought another flipped it, and that made enough. I did actually pretty well on that, and it made me enough money to buy my first commercial property, which is a mobile home park. And then
did you do a 1031 or was it a cash out and rebuy?
Actually, I don't remember. I don't think I did a 1031 because I didn't really understand what they were at the time. But but it was this was 2019, and so Seattle between 2017 and 2021, it was a hockey stick. It was like you could not lose on a flip. And so I did that, and I got a sizable amount of money and used that as the down payment with partners to buy this mobile home park. And that got me into owning commercial properties, and I was hooked. And from there, I started buying more, got into self-storage, started buying self-storage facilities, then started the podcast, and now we're here.
And now we're here. Have you played that game Cash Flow 10202?
What's that? No, same guy, right?
Kiyosaki.
Yeah, Kiyosaki. No, I've seen it. I haven't played it though.
Okay, so we have it, but there's small deals and big deals, and it looks like you did like 1-2 small deals, and you're like, big deal, let's go. It's one of those like when it lines up. I mean, there's some great opportunities, but having a strategy about going about that, I think, is kind of a smart idea.
Well, I mean, just buying in 2017, 2018, that's not quite a strategy. It was luck, but half of life is luck.
Like, knowing what to do with it was good. Did you have like an early coach or mentor, or like who was kind of giving you advice?
I wish I'd had like an actual, mentor, somebody that I talked with. I didn't, but I bought a course, and it was, what was his name? Matt Tiriel. It's this guy out of California, Epic Real Estate, I think is his company. And, he taught me, I took his mentorship, like group mentorship program, and kind of taught me the basics enough for me to be dangerous. And then with that, I just kind of went with it.
Excellent. And then, so now you're up and you're running and you're doing all this stuff. In that phase, were you single? Were you married? Like, what's kind of the personal life going on through that part?
I mean, through my 20s, I was just doing everything, just bouncing around. I had relationships, but they didn't last long term. And then I think going to be married soon. We're going to get married in August, and we've been together for 7 or 8 years. So we've been together for a while. When did I meet her? I don't remember if I met.
So you can remember these houses you flipped, but not meeting your wife?
I remember meeting her. I just don't remember how that aligns with where I was in my career. And I was trying to figure out, did I meet her before or after buying that first? It was before buying that first mobile home park, or was it after? I don't remember. It was. I should be able to do this math in my head, right? Yeah. So it was around the same time. But doing the flips and everything, that was just I had girlfriends, but it was nothing long term.
Good. What were some of your early struggles like going through it? Was it finding the money? Was it knowing what to do with it? Was it the construction part? Like, which part were you wish you knew now what you did or didn't do?
Yeah, I mean, it was the money, especially in real estate. If you have money, it's a lot easier to make money. And I know this 100% now. But, back then, especially that first flip that I did, I had $19,000. That's what I left my corporate job with. And I had, little money coming in from e-commerce, but not enough to live on. So I used all of that money to do that first flip, and that launched me into the mobile home park. And then cash flow started to come in inch by inch. If I had, if you start out with $5 million in your bank account, it would be really easy to take that 5 million and turn it into 10. And it's a lot more difficult to turn $20,000 into $1 million. So at the beginning, it was definitely capital.
Good. And how did you solve it?
Just hit my head agagainst the wall until I figured it out.
Doing the grind side of it?
Yeah. I just, eventually you do enough deals. Wholesales were probably the thing that got me enough active income, but that didn't really solve. I like cash flow. I want money coming in every single month that can support the family. And wholesales don't solve that. I also really don't like wholesaling. Just the entire experience of wholesaling is not fun for me, but that is definitely what allowed me to buy more properties was doing
wholesale.
Is that?
Why do you not like wholesaling? Do you not like talking to homeowners? Do you feel dirty? Like, what side of it?
Yeah, I've always felt it's not entirely truthful, and I don't like being dishonest even in the least bit. Because I would always, you always go into the property and you're like, we have the intention of buying this. There's a possibility that we would wholesale it. But it's usually, you put your eyes on a property, you're like, you understand if this is for you or if it's not. And so just that small bit, I just wasn't really a fan of. But wholesaling is definitely an effective way to generate active income, and it's how I did it. So I'm not going to knock anybody who's doing it, especially if you're getting deals done. Yeah, it's not, but that allowed me to buy enough properties to where cash flow became the thing that kind of built up the bank account.
So I look at wholesaling like I can see what you're saying where you feel dirty about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at it as, hey, I am partnering with Gabe on this deal. right? I just
Yeah.
happen to take my equity out now. He's going to go for the long term, whether it's a
Yeah,
rent
yeah,
or
and I 100% understand that.
it's
People have
just how
given me that argument before, and I understand that. There's nothing. I'm not knocking anybody for it. It's just when I do that, I don't. I know that it's kind of a trick of phrase or something, at least for me. And I just or turn of phrase. I don't know what that phrase is, but it's
sounds
just
like a
not. It
mind
doesn't
blow.
align really with what I like in business.
Good. Well, to me, it just sounds like you have a mental thing there that it's. Did we talk about this before? Rules, the bullshit rules from that book, Code of Extraordinary Mind.
Oh no.
So the word rules. Do you read a lot of books?
I used to, not so much. Once we have a daughter now, she's 2 years old, and that kind of took out the.
Now
I read a lot of daughters' books.
yeah, it's like a lot of you power through those puppies, don't you? Uh, so this book, man, it's like it's thick, right? It's chewing information, right? It's that kind of thick book, like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People,
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of book where you really
yeah.
have to study it. But one of the things that I pulled out of that book and now I put it into my coaching, it's rules, bullshit rules, like things that you were brought up with. They're not really a law. It's not really a thing, but we're just brought up thinking it is. So like we're Italian, so we're not the Norwegians here. But like, I don't know if it was an Italian thing or a family thing, but you don't put shoes on the bed. It's bad luck if your shoes go on the bed.
It's a reasonable rule.
But that's the thing is it's not actually bad luck. Like the number 13, is that bad luck? It's not, but we've now perceived it to be that, like, hey, so you turn around and you buy a mobile home park. Where was it?
The first one was Eastern Washington. It was in just a tiny little city over there in Grant County. And that one, how do we find that? That was cold calling, I believe.
So you do a handful of deals and you're like, oh, what the hell? I'm just going to look up mobile parks and start calling them out of town.
No, so I admit, so when
like, that's a big jump to me, Gabe. Like, hey,
yeah,
what the hell? Let's call this guy.
When I was doing flips and buying like single family rentals, I realized like there is special. Well, in Seattle, in the world that I lived in, I was like, I don't see myself being able to retire or get financial freedom by buying these properties because there's just not enough cash flow and they're way too expensive. And so I started reading, trying to figure out how do people make cash flow with real estate. Obviously, buying in the Midwest is a great strategy, going out there buying properties that cash flow well. But I wasn't quite there. I wanted to buy properties in Washington State. And so I started looking at multifamily, and that made a lot of sense. But then I met a partner who we were just in the same area doing the same thing. And so he took, I think it was Kevin Bupp's course, one of the mobile home guys. He took his course and told me about mobile home parks, told me why it's a good investment and why you should look at it. And I was sold, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So we started calling mobile home parks, bought our first one in I think it was the very end of 2019. So almost 2020. It was like December of 2019. And then, from there, got hooked. So mobile home park self-storage over the next like 3 years, I bought almost 10 of them. And then, then we're here.
So, but I mean, did you find that partner? Was it through networking or?
Yeah,
was it like a local RIA or were you just coincidence, luck?
No, that was Facebook. It was like jumping in Facebook groups, seeing who's talking, just reaching out to people. Hey, let's grab a drink. Let's go chat. So I was doing a lot of networking before COVID hit, just because I wanted to meet people. I wanted to understand how to do what I'm trying to do. And that was one of the big things. So I met this guy through Facebook, and then we grabbed a beer, and he talked to me about mobile home parks. I was like, that sounds great. Let's do this.
It really does come down to talk about like the best marketing. It's like grabbing a coffee, doing lunch, grabbing a beer, like, because that's where you're like, dude, I like this guy. Or you're like, nah, something's not passing the sniff test.
Yeah.
Or it's how are they talking to the waiter or waitress? How are they doing, when, a waiter spills the water on the table? Do they freak out or are they like, whatever? There's a lot you could pick up from those little lunches.
So. Yeah, it makes a big difference. I mean, that's another reason why I started the podcast is I wanted COVID hit, and then you can't do that anymore. So I wanted to keep talking to people in real estate, and so I started the podcast, and do not regret it. It's it's a lot of fun talking to people, hearing about their strategies, like yourself, and what you do out there, and just keeping those conversations going.
So I think we talked about this a little bit, but are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Probably like right down the center.
So, because out networking, shaking hands, kissing babies, like that's e-work.
Yeah.
Because I remember you're also like, I like to not do all that too. So
Yeah, I think when I took what is it, the Myers Briggs, I think I
yeah.
was ENTJ/INTJ, like put them both in there. So extroverted and introverted.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm an EN, so it's like the big picture thinking and all that stuff. And I do like getting on stage and stuff like that. So have you got into that world?
I've done it a few times. Mostly it's just like travel. I don't really like to travel for stages, but I've gone out and spoken a few times.
So in our so this year we have most of my things are just interviewing, talking with people like you. Every once in a while, I call them monologues, right? One offs. And this year I started off with the one about Eads Bridge. So Eads Bridge is here in St. Louis. And I'm going to make this into a book. So you'll get a call from me about that. I'll have you go write it. So the concept, right, is we as in America want to connect East and West. Right? Manifest destiny, all this stuff was what politicians and people like that talked about. But it wasn't until after the Civil War that the railroad said, okay, hey, capitalism, right, we're going to connect physically East and West, right? So the Mississippi River at this time is over a mile long. It had to be tall enough that steamboats could go under, big currents, all these constrictions, right? And the common building material was wood, iron, and stone. And that just it couldn't fit that thing. 1 in 4 bridges were falling at that time, and they weren't even this extravagant. So long story short, the dream phase was having that vision, hey, we want to connect it. The forge phase was they recognized iron wasn't strong enough and they had to forge that into steel. To do that, you need to have the pressure, you need to have the heat, you need to put in additives, and you need to take out impurities, right? And then
I know nothing about material science. What is the difference between iron and steel?
I just was telling you, Gabe, did you listen?
Sorry, keep going.
It's the heat, right? So you got to get it hot, and then you got to do certain things to it, right? You put in additives, you take out impurities, but it's that heat, that pressure, all the stuff that turns it into steel, right? At that time, it was super expensive to do, but and it was super crazy. They were way over budget, all this stuff. Kind of sounds like your first rehab. Everything was going wrong, not working. Well, spoiler alert, it works out. So
That's good.
They end up making it with steel, and then finish is the last one. For Dream Forge finish is the 3 points out of that. But it was this forging process that it was a hard time, right? There's a lot of gut checks, and but you believe in it so much that you keep going. In your personal journey here, do you have a defining moment? Do you have a forging moment that, Gabe with multiple companies scraping by, maybe a young lawyer, to Gabe, the guy buying properties nationwide, mobile home parks, got a bunch of what was a forging moment that helped connect those two sides for you?
It's a good question. It was probably that. So I mentioned lost the job, 8,000 left, and bought that property. And that one moment of saying, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to make it work. And just kind of like leaping and trying to, grab the cliff. That was probably the moment, was just deciding to go through with it and do that flip and, putting all my money into it. And then coming out the other side with money in my pocket.
So was your family, were your friends, were they supportive, or were like, dude, you're losing it? How did that part go?
Oh no, my family has always been 100% supportive of me. I wouldn't be here without my family. And so they didn't know really what I was doing. And I'm sure they didn't quite understand. Well, they understood it's real estate. Everybody understands real estate, but yeah, they would always be like, just, you got this, just keep going. So my family has always been a very positive influence, especially my career.
I'm youngest of 5.
Oh, nice.
And some of them are still like, I don't really know what you do, Kevin. It's like,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, just think of real estate. Call me if you know somebody who needs real estate stuff. That's kind of what I do.
That's what I do.
But do you have siblings?
I have a sister, yeah. She's older.
I didn't hear you.
She's older. I'm the youngest, yeah.
Youngest of 2.
Same.
It's like you're both like middle kids in a sense. It's like
exactly.
But how is that dynamics? Are you guys buddies? Does she live around there?
She recently moved to Eastern Washington, which
that's the dry side. That's the brown side of the state, right?
Yeah, it can be. It is very plainy. It's like rolling hills. Actually, if you guys Windows 95 or 98, if you guys remember that. One of the, I don't know if it was like the standard desktop that it came with was these rolling kind of green hills, and then the back. that was taken out in Eastern Washington by Pullman, which is just out in Eastern Washington.
That's
So I
awesome.
thought
What
that
are
was
the
pretty neat.
chances that Windows sign was just floating by at that
Yeah,
time?
probably at the same time
I
existed.
mean,
Yeah.
is that like, is there a historical marker there? Like, hey, this is where this happened.
I have no idea. It's just living. Microsoft was here in Seattle, or is here in Seattle, and so people talk about that. I don't know.
People talk.
Specifically.
No,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. So, okay. And were your friends supportive of your journey? Because right now it sounds like everything was working in your favor here.
Well, except for the lack of money. That's what wasn't working for in my favor. Yeah, I don't think nobody was ever saying it won't work. I don't think anybody was like, I'm gonna do that. Nobody in my family or my friend circle was ever ever had anything negative to say. Nobody like helped me because they couldn't do it. They hadn't done it themselves, and so they couldn't really give advice. It was always a supportive environment without like the actual guidance towards what needs to happen. And that was one of the difficult things, is not knowing exactly what to do. Because when you're learning a new skill, when you're learning anything new, you're always just taking what you think is the right step, but you never know if it's actually the right step. And that's why I wish I had, when I started out, I wish I had an actual mentor, like somebody who was there, who had, who was doing 10, 20 flips a month, or had, 3,000 units under management, somebody like that who could just point me in the right direction and give, say, this is exactly what you need to be doing at the stage that you're in right now. I feel like that is invaluable. And if anybody out there listening has the opportunity to find a mentor like that, definitely take it. It'll cut the time in half, but it'll also cut your stress in half, because you'll have somebody that has achieved what you want to achieve telling you this is the right decision, this is the right course to take, and it gives you a lot of confidence when you got somebody in your ear saying that. Yeah. I've had that sense. Like, I've had deals since I got started and got into commercial. I've had people in my life, especially when I do deals with people who are much farther along than me. Just having those partners, I say this because I've had it now, and I understand how valuable it is to interact with people who have already gone down the path that you want to go down. So yeah, that's one thing that I wish that I had when I was just starting out. Well, a lot earlier than I did.
So you talk about partners. Like, how many partners do you have? Is it just on anything you buy, or is it on a project specific, or how do you do your partnerships?
So I've had partners in mobile home parks, partners in self-storage, and then sometimes I'll bring in LPs on single deals. So if it's like under $2 million and you only need one person, a large sum of money to bring in, then I'll have individual partners like that. I was thinking of one in particular. I have this self-storage facility out in Indiana, and it was a larger, it was a single investor. The property was like 1.5 million, I think. That's what we bought it for. But he owns a ton of industrial properties, mobile home parks, single self-storage. And so he owns a lot of stuff. He has a lot of experience, and having him first trusting me to run the deal, and then also every month he'll go into a property review with me, being able to hear his feedback on stuff is invaluable. So that kind of like, and it's not a direct mentorship, like you don't hire someone necessarily to be your mentor, but as you get into business and you start doing deals, and you do deals with people who are farther along, it's great to learn from them. And it's just something I value a lot.
Excellent. So in your little path here, in your journey, like, what would be some advice you would give like a younger version of you, right? So if somebody, you went to school, you were thinking you were going for a certain path, right? Because people think lawyers, doctors, you're at the top of the food chain, and you were like, man, that lifestyle looks like it really sucks, right? I want to go out and be crazy and invest all my money and see what happens, right? That could go pro or con, but like, if you could give that Gabe or somebody like you at that time some advice, what do you think it would be? Are you telling all future lawyers to quit and get into buying self-storage?
That was the right decision for me. I'm not saying it's the right decision for everybody, but not going to law school was definitely the right decision for me. But if I were to give myself advice, younger self, that's hard because, at the time you only have the information that you have. But I would go back to the mentor thing. I would say, keep looking for a mentor, find a mentor, pay for a mentor, whatever you got to do, get a mentor who's doing what you want to do. And then just do what they say. Like, obviously make good choices for yourself. But I think finding a mentor earlier on would be something I would give a piece of advice I would give myself. And then also, but this is kind of in tandem with the mentor thing, it would be not having as much shiny object syndrome, sticking to one course and doing it. And again, if you have a mentor, they will help you focus on that one path. But me being younger, I was like, I told you, e-commerce, digital marketing, flipping houses, all this stuff. I did it all. But had I chosen one and just stuck with it, it builds quicker. And I know that now that, I chose mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities, commercial properties. I just buy them. And I realized, it took me a couple of years to buy 10 plus. And all you got to do is just focus. And so had I known that earlier, that would have been better.
Okay, that sounds amazing advice, but really, I mean, shiny object syndrome, all these different things flying around. Not everybody gets it, but you go into entrepreneurship or you start saying, "Hey, world universe, I'm an investor. I see opportunities everywhere." This concept. How do you stay focused? Because then people are like, "Hey, you could do this and make some money. Hey, you could do this and make some money. Hey, what about, when you're not." Sometimes, like, especially with some of my students, when they break from their 9 to 5 and then go into there's no borders of entrepreneurship, sometimes you really lose two sides. One, you work all the time, or the other is you don't work enough. So what was your balance? How did you get parameters? What are some tricks for people to laser in and focus on something?
I mean, at the beginning, it's just, the trick is you just got to want it enough. Like, I don't think there's anything you can really do, because you just have to want the goal hard enough. Once you hit the goal, I think it becomes more like you aligning with what your values are. Like I mentioned, I don't like wholesaling. That's just a value that I have, and I don't need to do it anymore. So it's something I choose not to do. But at the beginning, you just got to want it enough and try hard enough. And I can't really give any specific answer, because, I personally just took opportunities as they arose. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. And that's how I got here. But like I said, had I focused in longer and said no to some of the opportunities that popped up and kind of honed in on the process, the systems and processes I was building for buying commercial properties earlier, that would have got me down the road farther.
So are you still looking at commercial properties now?
Yep. We still do the same thing. Mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities.
Like strip malls. Is that what you're talking about?
No strip malls, just mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities.
Okay.
Commercial properties, it is tempting, and I still like, I'll get deals sent to me, like industrial, and I've had retail sent my way too. And it's tempting, but it's just like, I know how to run mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities. I know how to onboard them. I know how to get them, under management. And so I'm just going to keep scaling what I know how to do. Yeah.
So are you the property manager on those?
I hire property managers. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not you. You're just overseeing the property manager.
Yeah. It's asset management.
So then what is the pros and cons of the mobile home versus the self-storage? Because one looks like you have, not to be like a more economically lower clientele, and then the other is tenantless tenants, I guess.
Yeah, they're both great assets. Mobile home parks are great because they're sticky and low turnover. And
they're low turnover?
If you're comparing it to RV parks, even apartment complexes, because these people, they own the mobile home, and to move that mobile home, they either have to sell it or they have to pay $5,000 to move it to another house, or another park. And so they're very sticky. Like once you get a tenant in there, they stick pretty well.
So you literally have a piece of land with a slab on it with utilities sticking out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And they roll up and hook up. That's what you got.
Yeah, as the owner, you're responsible for the utilities and then for the park itself. But the tenant is responsible for their own home, which is another reason why I prefer this over multifamily. It's just there's not as many unknowns if you're buying older or multifamily. There's a lot of unknowns in the underwriting, like who knows what happens when you dig into the walls. Mobile home parks, there's not as much that can go wrong. There are still things that can go wrong for sure, but it's just not as much. And I just it's an easy model, and it cash flows really well. Cap rates are better than if you get in the multifamily. So mobile home parks, I really like them. RV parks, when we buy them similar to mobile homes, so they're long-term stay. So it's not like your traditional destination RV where you go there and you've got like water slides and stuff, or a lake, or it's just it operates like mobile home park. The only disadvantage is they're not as sticky, and so people can, they're on wheels, so they can come in, come out pretty quick, pretty easily. But again, it's a great asset because you're really just renting out the utilities. Self-storage is great. It is the great thing about self-storage is it can be run pretty much 100% without employees. So like mobile home parks, you need your property manager. Self-storage, you really just need a boots on the ground, somebody to go there, do lockouts, clean the aisles, empty units that haven't been emptied, that kind of thing. But everything else can be like virtually 100% automated. You got your automatic gate that locks people out when they don't pay their rent. Everything can be done online. They sign their lease online. They pay their rent online. Biggest problems I've had with self-storage is buying in the wrong location. I mean, that's a problem with all real estate. If you buy it in the wrong location, you're going to have a problem. Self-storage specifically, I've purchased facilities that weren't, it was a really good metro. And that was when I was first getting started. I was really focused on your standard KPI that you look for a metro, like growing population, high employment rate, good median house value, that kind of thing. And so that's what I was focused on, but I wasn't really focused on the other statistics like property crime statistics in general. And so there's like these two facilities I'm thinking of specifically. One was in Hot Springs, one was in Lubbock, Texas. Both of them actually have a really high property crime index. And I didn't really realize that was could be as big of an issue as it is. And so I bought the facilities. The facility just kept getting broken into time and time again. So that's a big headache, I guess, that you can have with self-storage, but that's really easily mitigated if you just buy in the right spot. Just don't buy in areas that are prone to property crime. So they're both, mobile home parks, RV parks, self-storage facilities, great assets. I really like self-storage also because you're not renting to anyone. They're not living on your property. Really, you're just renting space. Like eviction rate or laws are so much easier. Like it's just people's stuff. And so if they don't pay, you give them notices and then you can just get them out of there.
Was it like Storage Wars? You just pop it open and you have people bid on it?
Yeah, you have to do auctions, but
is it
we never had those. We've never had that kind of thing at our properties where people come and do like a Storage Wars kind of thing.
That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we've had some interesting things left at the property. There was this one really nice, like it was like an old Cadillac that somebody left in their unit. But yeah, self-storage is good.
But do you get that?
No, we don't get to keep it, or we don't keep it. You get, you can for the sale, you get to recoup your rent that you should have been owed, but you don't get to just keep the car.
Oh.
Yeah, self-storage, really like it. Mobile home parks, RV parks, those.
Let me ask this on the mobile home park. So this is where I'm leery a little bit here in the Midwest. Missouri, Tennessee are some of the hot spots for meth creation. I don't know how that is. Yeah. Hooray, right? Not the things you want to be on the list for. Like, is that ever an issue that you have? Now you're taking
people doing meth in parks?
Cooking it. Yeah, making it.
Oh, cooking it. So our property managers, we try to find good property managers, and we're explicit, we're clear with them that we want a good community. And so
I don't know if people go out and say, give me the lower rung, please. Like,
right, yeah.
I think it's one of those things like, well, I need a couple extra bucks. This is something I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to start making this.
We try to get good tenants in our parks. And we will not allow anybody with a criminal past in the park, even though, a lot of people think that the mobile home parks are filled with criminals. At least ours are not. And so, yeah, if you're intentional about creating a good community and about keeping the grounds and the park itself in a good shape, you'll attract the right people, and the people will take care of each other. They'll take care of the park. And yeah, it's, obviously there's drama that happens, even if it's just, multifamily, single family, whatever, you're always going to have drama from the 5% of people that are just prone to drama. That's the same with mobile home parks. But other than that, having good people in the parks solves a lot.
There's probably a lot less drama with self-storage.
Is there drama with self-storage? Occasionally you'll have people trying to live in the units, but that's not really drama. It's just like, you got to get out. You can't live in here.
Well, you got cameras everywhere, right? So you kind of have an idea like, hey, check unit 3. I think Joe's still here.
Yeah. No, there's not really drama with self-storage. People, it's stuff. So people don't care as much.
So if I had one or the other, which one are you like, yes, call me for this?
They're both great. It would depend on the deal, you know. It all depends on the numbers.
I gotcha. All right. So beforehand, we talked about this, and I think it's fun to put you on the spot now. You're getting married here in August. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you just did a older version of a bachelor party with some of your buddies.
Yep.
And you went to where, Gabe?
We went to Vegas, which was great because we were talking before the show. Bachelor parties that I've been to in my past, it was all in my 20s, which was fun, but we didn't have any money. And so now we're older and we get to go to Vegas. We have money. So it was a lot of fun. We did Speed Vegas, which is this racetrack. And we rented I rented a Lamborghinis, Ferraris, that kind of thing. And you take these, supercars out on a 2-mile track, a long track, and you just bomb around with them. That was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
Mostly it was just, having fun in Vegas, which Vegas, I haven't been to Vegas in a really long time. And it is expensive. I did not realize that prices went up that much. Like a single beer is like $15-16. It's ridiculous. I don't, we have money, but I don't want to be just like paying that much for a beer. It's offensive.
So we're obviously, I'm a little older than you here, but we went for, my friends are turning 40, some are turning 50. So we get to go to the adventures, right? Not bachelor parties, but, it's just stuff we go with the families or the couples. So we just did one not too long to Vegas, and I haven't been there since my 20s. And it's like, it used to be free. Like, hey, take alcohol, have a good time. Yeah. And now it's like, how much to go see this show? How much? Holy,
it's ridiculous.
I just, you use the hotel bar and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A round of drinks is like a mortgage of one of your properties.
We none of us really knew this because I don't think any of us had been to Vegas in a while. But on the first day, we went down to the pool and my friend bought a round of margaritas for everybody. I think it was 6 of us there. And he got the bill and he's like, holy shit, it was $220. I was like, $220 for 6 margaritas? Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous. But I'll
tell you, some of those hotel pools are awesome.
Yeah. Like we stayed at the MGM
and rivers and all that stuff. Fantastic.
Yeah, the MGM was pretty cool.
Actually, I think that's where we were. Yeah, the big line in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Didn't make any money though. I think we all lost money gambling. Oh no, I think I came out with $100 total. $100 was my
your
win.
Memories, right?
Yeah.
Or stories. I shouldn't say memories because not all of them are remembered. But I'll tell you, the people watching in Vegas is the best place in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
People just run at a different level there.
Yeah.
All right. So hey, as we are wrapping up on our little talk here, when you get those odd moments, those stress moments that like, why am I doing this? The pressure moments, or, you just get freaking kicked in the gut sometimes in our industry, right? We do have those highs and lows. Is there a book, a poem, a saying, a scripture? Is there something you go like that's your little mantra, your motto that you're like, hey man, and you pull this down? Like, is there that little bulletin board saying that you have on the fridge or the whiteboard? Like, what is it that you go to when you need that boost or motivation to do the next thing or to keep going?
For books, Meditations, Marcus Aurelius is still something that I read often. And it's nice because, it's just little excerpts, but everything that he has in there is great, and I still read that. But when I get hit in the face now, it's just like you expect it, and so it's just it happens, and that's just part of the game. Is being slapped in the face every once in a while, and then you just keep moving on.
I think, gosh, I don't know who said it, but if you have a problem and it could be solved with money, you don't have a problem, you have an expense.
Yeah, exactly. And most things can be solved with money. That's what you realize.
And it's like, once you could look at it like that, it's like, oh, the painter didn't show up and here's a new painter. Oh, this didn't happen. Here you go.
Yeah. There are very, very few true problems.
You'll find out soon with, officially a wife that some things can't always be solved with money. But I'll let you figure that one out.
There you go.
No, you got your time in there. So, hey, Gabe, as we're wrapping up, any final words that you have for the people?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are just getting started, again, I would highly recommend getting any type of mentor. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a partner in a deal or somebody who's just farther down the line than you are. I was serious when I said that. It makes life a lot easier and a lot it expedites your journey in real estate. But if you just keep keep doing it, keep putting your nose to the grindstone. You'll get there eventually. Just don't give up and find yourself a mentor.
And Gabe, if somebody wanted to see you or follow you, where do they find you? Is it the socials, the podcast? Where do you want people to go?
Best place is probably the podcast website. It's therealestateinvestingclub.com. That's the real estate investing with an ing club.com.
And the fact that was still available is still like,
I know.
Did you buy that or was it just sitting there?
I mean, I bought it. I don't remember. Yeah, I guess I got lucky.
Nice job. I mean, that seems like a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, right.
I was lucky to find the Kevin Dairaghi Show. I mean, the guy who bought that one, I was like, come on, man, please.
Oh, somebody already bought it? That's funny.
Just in case somebody with my name was ever looking. That's awesome. Hey, Gabe, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for spending time with us. And good job with your podcast, reaching all these people. That's awesome. Congratulations. Awesome. And thanks for being here. All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, friends, it's Kevin. Hopefully you plugged a couple good nuggets out of that conversation with Gabe. One, I like the concept of self-storage in mobile home parks, how they're similar and how they're different, especially compared to like single families and stuff like that. I was interested on how he selective partnerships, right? So when you find that private lender or partner, and then also getting them to become, in a sense, a mentor or somebody to help you evolve in your path. So I thought that was pretty cool. He kept underlining the main thing is like, hey, if you're getting into it, get a coach. Get a coach. Like whatever you're trying to do, find a coach, find a mentor, find somebody who's been there already. One of the biggest, we didn't open this up a lot more, but I thought it was really interesting. As I keep my notes here and I was looking back over it. But in the very beginning, he went to school and he was going to become a lawyer. So I said it this way. He was going to become a lawyer. He wasn't a lawyer. He didn't go to law school, but he started working as a lawyer, right? He did an internship. He started following and shadowing people. And it was actually through that process that he did the vision work, right? He was like, man, I don't really want this to be my life. A lot of times we think doctors and lawyers are at the top, food chain here. And he's like, man, just that lifestyle doesn't look like what I want to be. And I'm actually so kind of proud looking back that he was able to have that discernment. Like, hey, I did this time. That's not what I want. Saved a bunch of money, saved a bunch of time, and was able to turn around and jump into a different area. Very thankful that he had a supportive family and friend group that kind of kept him up. I was thinking about that analogy we do sometimes about that crab in the bucket. A lot of times our family unit or friend group, when one of the crabs starts to go out, what crabs do is they actually pull the other crab down. So in a sense, the community is actually keeping people from leaving the bucket. In his case, it wasn't a bucket of crabs, but it was people actually there to support him. They didn't necessarily know how to support him, but they were going, hey, that a boy, good job. So instead of a pulling area, it was more of a supportive, like a ladder type system that he was in. So fantastic. Glad you had that to be able to start your career and kind of move out of it. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this talk with Gabe, and we'll see you next time.